Today we're in the English countryside visiting the charming home of Rachel Ashwell, founder of Shabby Chic. Blending ruffled linens, antique treasures, and beautifully time-worn details, Rachel has created a space that feels like a peaceful escape to the French countryside.
I have a really amazing collection of beautiful antique linens, and that's because my mum never knew what to get me for my birthdays. So she always gave me these beautiful, the handwork on these beautiful old linens.
With delicate stenciled walls, curated vintage finds, and hidden moments of charm in every corner, her home reflects a life lived between Los Angeles and the UK, creative, soulful, and effortlessly romantic.
What's so beautiful about it is because it's so rubbed back, it actually looks like you've discovered it rather than added it.
So join us as we step inside Rachel's serene Somerset retreat and experience the timeless beauty of shabby chic living. To watch Rachel's full episode ad-free, scan the QR code on screen or click the join button below.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Rachel Ashwell, founder of Shabby Chic. Welcome to my home Meadow Manor in Somerset. Come in and have a look around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. I'm Allison Kenworthy, the founder of Homeworthy, and we take you inside the world's most beautifully decorated homes and introduce you to the brilliant people who live there.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Liz Lang. Welcome to Grey Gardens.
Click the join button below to access all of our latest episodes ad-free and watch extended cuts of this and other homes, opening the doors to new rooms and exclusive content featuring our beloved hosts.
I can't wait to see, I'm so excited.
And if you're looking to shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy tastemakers, be sure to use the product links below or scan the QR code on screen to find fabulous furniture, coffee table books, and accessories that can transform your house into a home.
Hi, my name is Rachel Ashwell. I am a designer as well as the founder of Shabby Chic, and I'm here at my home in Somerset. So I founded Shabby Chic in 1989, so many decades ago. Prior to that, I was a stylist for TV commercials, but my heritage, if you like, is both of my parents were in the flea market business. My father collected antique books. My mum bought and sold antique dolls, which I didn't much love. But I did love watching her making, with her hands, these beautiful, kind of imperfect little dresses and things for these dolls. And so that really planted a subliminal seed for me of lovely tattered laces and ribbons and making something beautiful, but not letting it be too polished. And so having that flea market kind of legacy and knowledge, as well as having been a stylist, after I'd had my two children, my son at the time, when I started Shabby Chic, was only, a few weeks old. My daughter was 2. So I kind of put together those kind of two parts of my prior life and thought, I want to open a store that can be kind of that beauty of imperfection. I know how to create beautiful vignettes from being a stylist. But also what was very important to me is being a young mother with years ahead of me of sticky fingers and muddy feet, was I wanted to have a home that was beautiful, comfortable, and functional. And so back in that day, loose covers, slip covers, machine washable, were actually not at the time really well used. So I thought, you know what? I don't want to be a mum that's telling my kids, don't touch the furniture, don't do this, don't do that. So I really put together what then became a lifestyle, even though it was based on an authentic love of mine and a need of mine, a beautiful, comfortable, functional brand. And the first thing that I did was I opened a store in Santa Monica, California. It was right close by where I lived. It wasn't necessarily a design destination, but it was right where I lived because, of course, I had these 2 little babies that I needed to be in close proximity to. And so I opened these doors, and it was largely machine washable, slip-covered furniture. But the furniture itself I had gathered from flea markets. I refurbished them, I maybe put a new cushion on them, but they were really just flea market found sofas and chairs and other period accessory vintage finds. And of course, that's where Shabby Chic came from. I didn't spend a lot of time kind of looking at focus groups or looking at the void in the market. It was just something very authentic to me. And I opened those doors and everything sold out, literally within a week. And of course, I wasn't a businesswoman, so I didn't have an understanding of you need cash flow, you need to have inventory in the pipes. It was, oh, we better get back to the flea market. Well, very quickly off my feet, I had to learn the furniture business because somebody would come in the store, they'd see a chair, they'd fall in love with it. But of course, because it was flea market found, even though I had made the slip covers, it was one-off. So I would throw the kids in the back of my car, drive around LA, find furniture makers of which I knew nothing about. Little by little, I did learn all of these things. But again, we're going back way before influencers, way before Instagram. It was based on word of mouth, magazine articles, maybe if you're fortunate, the odd TV show. And everybody from Madonna to Bruce Springsteen to Julia Roberts to Bruce Willis, you name it, they all found their way into my store. And it was a really beautiful time. It was authentic, it was real. And I think the chord that I struck with people was, at the time, they either could have their own designers, and designers, of course, I love to work with them, but if you aren't able to really articulate to a designer, maybe you don't even know what you want, sometimes the end result, it's beautiful, but maybe it's not actually in alignment with somehow what feels good to your heart. And I think the experience of walking into that very first Shabby Chic store in Santa Monica was just like home to people. And they would come in and they just wanted the whole thing, which again, at the time, was just these vintage finds and these sofas and chairs. So very quickly, but you know, I dropped out of school at 16, and I think that's kind of my MO, is that life is my school. So, and interestingly, often people ask me, you know, did you go to interior design school? Did you go to fabric design school? And part of me wishes I had, but I also think if I had, I might have been overwhelmed, like the magnitude of what is perceived that you need to learn versus just letting life be my teacher. And have I made mistakes? Oh boy, have I made mistakes. But nevertheless, I've made them as I go. And so even when I make those mistakes, they might be overwhelming. Usually I only make one mistake at a time, so I can handle it. So now we're in one of my favorite rooms in the whole house. It's the snug. As you can see, it's lovely proportions. It's just a lovely square. It does actually overlook the road, which that was one of the considerations of buying this house, was what I feel about being on the road. And yes, occasionally you hear a car, but more importantly, you quite often hear clip-clop of horses or tractors. So it's actually a nice reminder of civilization. You can see George, he goes from chair to chair in this house. This was actually a chair of my mum's. Interestingly, she loved flowers. She had a garden that she was very proud about, but she didn't actually like flowers in her decor. So this was a chair that I made for her, but as you can see, it's paisley. Very threadbare arms here, which, yes, could I make arm covers and cover that? And I will one of these days, but I still feel her presence, and just that's a visual for me, that it was her hands that over many decades would have caused that threadbareness. And so I like that little reference, and George very much likes it. The belle of this room, probably, one would have to give to this fireplace. Obviously original, very beautiful. The chimney never was in working order since I purchased the house. So again, another charnwood stoves here. And this room gets toasty when that fire's going, even though I have these lovely radiators that actually, I spent a good deal of my budget on replacing all of the radiators throughout the house. And they're beautiful, so I like them being visible. But honestly, if that's going and that's going, this room is very, very warm. Always love candlelight. I had a very challenging time when I brought over my containers from America. I had all these amazing crystal chandeliers, this being one of them. Very few was I ever able to get them coded from the American, where we don't earth our wiring or something, coded to English standards, but that one actually did make the grade. Again, these curtains were in that container that came over. These used to be in my prairie over in Texas, and so they've been stored away forever. They were a tad short for here, so I added this length of velvet just to give it that extra length, and absolutely love them. Always have loved these. One of the things that I've been known for 35 years, 36 years, is my machine washable slip-covered furniture. This is one of my, from my range. It's called the Beecroft from my couture collection. So you can yank off these covers and you can put them straight in the washing machine and they'll come out good as new. Now, I did that for 30 years in Los Angeles, specifically Malibu, right from when I had little children with sticky fingers. A little bit different, sand on the toes, to George, my dog's muddy paws. Not that I mind washing these slipcovers, they're not a big deal, but I added this sofa topper just so that there's a little bit of reprieve from having to wash the slipcover as often as I land up having to with his muddy paws in the winter. The sofa topper makes it very easy. So you can see it's beautiful, it's comfortable and functional, and that's my filter for whether it works in my home and all those things that is. This is actually a painting that one of my very first paintings that I purchased 35 years ago when I didn't have very much money. I found it in a flea market and it was a lot of money. It was like $500 way back then. It was a lot of money. But I just thought there is something about that painting, and actually it turned out to be quite a valuable painting. So that's been in many of my books, many of my homes. These are just funny little moments. It's not plugged in, it's not doing anything, but because I use the house for photo shoots so much, things are always kind of coming through here. And sometimes when things come through here for the purpose of maybe a shoot, I think, oh, that's actually quite nice. Let's just leave it there. My dahlias are from my garden. Can you believe them? I mean, look at the size of these things. So yeah, that's about the only thing that I'm growing right now. And of course, candlelight for me, even in the daytime sometimes, is something that I always really appreciate. And I just think right now we have an unusual bright sun going on here, but even during the day, I just think it gives that romance and that kind of personal lived-in touch. So, and then the paint on the walls. So what I did with this, it's actually a rose paint that I diluted 60% with water. And if you didn't see the border at the top of a Wimborne White, which is by Farramball, if you didn't see that, you might not even notice that the walls were pink. But actually, it kind of, when you see the join, you can see that it's pink. So little subtle details, but I think they make all the difference. I've been living in Los Angeles for 40 years. That's a whole other story unto itself. And about 5 years ago now, I just had this yearning that I wanted to get back to my English roots. Now, I left London, not the countryside, London when I was 19. So I didn't really have any experience of country living. But I did know after living in Los Angeles and also having a big experience in Texas, which is another story, I was used to space. Not necessarily wide open spaces, but I just was used to not being like on a terrace with, being attached to other houses. And I'm also very romantic. Whenever I get an idea, a film comes into mind, and it's funny. I've just been rewatching Out of Africa many, many times, and I kind of get these ideas of these fantasies that I want to bring into my reality. So I chose Somerset. I had two friends here only, Pearl Lowe being one, Christina Strutt, the founder of Cabbages and Roses, who sadly isn't with us anymore. So I had two friends that lived in this close proximity, and so out of all the countrysides of England, that's how I landed up in Somerset. So when I first arrived, I wasn't ready to close my door on Los Angeles. I have an adult daughter that lives there. I have an adult son that lives in London. I have a business still in Los Angeles. So I started with renting a little cottage on a horse farm, which was actually perfect for me because I was alone. I planted myself there I was going to be 6 months. It landed up being 3 years, partly because COVID came in the middle of it and everybody and their mother moved to Somerset, so then I couldn't find a house to buy. Plus I was still commuting 3 months, 4 months back to Los Angeles, got stuck there for 7 months because you couldn't travel. So it was actually not an easy task to find a house. But I had found this house. I'd been introduced by some friends of mine to the owners of this house 3 years before I bought it. They were a lovely family, lots of grown-up children, grandchildren. He was the local doctor. They were deciding to downsize their house, which gave me cause to think they're downsizing. They've got a much bigger life here than I have. Is this the house that I need? But I really fell in love with the house. It's very simple and it's a farmhouse. It has lots of outbuildings, lots of cottages. Fantasy of mine would be to make it a writers, artists, musicians, poets retreat. I had something along those lines in Austin, Texas, with a property I had called The Prairie, where I would host creative events and people would come from the whole world actually, and we would all talk. You know, somebody would be playing the guitar, somebody might be writing some poetry, somebody else would be sketching, and that was kind of in my fantasy of what this whole compound could look like. But for now, obviously the farmhouse itself is where I live, but still only part-time. So I kind of feel again, I always go back to movies like the movie The Holiday. You know, I've got my country place here in England, but I've still got my Los Angeles life. But nevertheless, I felt very drawn just to having this experience without needing all the answers. How long is it? Is it going to be just temporary? Is it my forever home? I've always, not always, but as I've gotten older and reflect back on life, I just look upon life as in chapters. And right now, this is my Somerset chapter. So again, when I found this house, well, apart from the fact that it's just so beautiful, that I was really drawn to was that actually, even if I wanted to change the walls and stuff as far as structural, you can't because it's a grade 2 listed house. But it only needed my decorative kind of layer. I didn't need to do any kind of structural. They had kept it very beautiful, so I wasn't walking into a money pit of mold and all the yucky stuff. Maybe the most important thing to me, and maybe this was because of my California living for so long, this house has the most magical light. I mean, today we're fortunate the sun is shining, but many days in England it's not, and certainly there's winter months, there's short days. But even on those short days, the double aspect windows, just the way of the flow of the hallways into the rooms, the light here is magnificent. So I've been here, I think I've owned the house about 3 years. I've been living in it for a couple. I kind of scrambled to do the painting of the house, and I did have these very kind of, for me, dramatic intentions of doing the English country palette, which for painting on the walls tends to be a darker palette. You know, I'm very known for my white walls and my California living. I wasn't as brave as I'd hoped I'd be, and you'll see that pretty much the walls are fairly pastel or white. But I do intend to, in time, go back when I have really had time to settle, understand how the light plays on the walls, to bring a little bit more of a rich palette in the English countryside way. But also my stuff, all my treasures, is quite colourful, it's quite textural. And the thing about all my stuff, actually, I had this place in Texas, which was a bed and breakfast wedding venue, lots of cottages, filled with all beautiful flea market found things. That subsequently isn't there anymore because I couldn't juggle Texas as well as everything else on my logistics. I put everything in 2 containers and sent it over to England before I even had found anywhere. It sat in a storage unit at a pig farm for 2 years, but I always knew that beautiful things somehow will find a place. And sure enough, the decorating was done on the house and we opened those 2 containers, moved everything in, wasn't sure what was going where, but everything did find a beautiful home. Okay, so now we're in my beloved laundry room that to me feels a bit like a chapel, in part because of the shape of this doorway, which I'm actually told was potentially the main entryway into the house once upon a time. But anyway, as teeny as it is, I get into a zone when I'm in here. So what happens is I have a lot of guests coming to stay, and I ask them all to strip their beds, please, but then to just leave their piles of towels and their piles of bedding here. And I actually do it nearly all myself, and that's not like a woe is me. It's actually something that I really enjoy doing. I get behind the fact of how beautiful all these linens are, as well as that I've had all these lovely guests who I know have enjoyed it. But mostly what I love about the process of letting things air dry is ruffles is my thing. So to me, this is a perfectly rumpled ruffle on the duvet. So all of these lovely prints and all these lovely things, they sit here for however long it takes for them to dry, and then they find their way at the top of the house into my linen room. So laundry is very much something that's just part of my day-to-day life in this home. As you can see, it's a very small little room. I found these lovely little curtain poles. They're actually from a company that makes curtain poles for boat cabins. So very small, very precise. These were curtains that were left over from my prairie in Texas. In time, I do hope to fill this whole wall with tiles. As you can see, I've got 12 right now. I just found 3 more actually. I'm very specific with the tiles that I like. So these 3 will, once I get 1 more, will find their way up here. I did not restore this area. I left the taps, and all I did to the sideboard was I just stripped it, but it's really lovely. And just added a few little details like the little mirrored cabinet here. And then a friend of mine, when she flows through, she always leaves me a beautiful gift. She's an artist, and she left this beautiful Pierrot painted right on this wall, which to some you may not even notice it, but to me she's just this very quiet, just quiet little piece of beauty. So this room is something that I absolutely love. One of my continued lessons in the lighting restrictions of England is anywhere where there's water, the light fixtures have to be fully covered. So no little twinkly chandeliers in here. So this light fixture up here still is very pretty by nature of it having this lovely floral design on it, but it meets the code because it's covered. So this is my beautiful laundry chapel. The final destination of all of my laundry experience, whether the washing line or in my garment rack in the laundry room, is it makes all its way to the top floor and it rests in this linen room. And I'm not a hoarder of bedding, but I'm very involved in bedding in as much as I have lots of projects for different licensed partners, for my own company. There's really amazing order here. I've also got lots of vintage, but it's where all those ruffles and all those beautiful florals, they come for their final place of being kept safe until they then get used back in the house. And this to me is complete abundance and luxury that I have this space. We are in the kitchen. First thing you see when you walk through the front door. Now, I've only ever had small kitchens. Even in the multiple of houses I've lived in, they've been galley kitchens, they've been just little nookie kitchens, they've been eating kitchens. But when I first walked into this house, I did think, oh my goodness, this is a large space for someone that can make like 5 really great dishes. And when I did first walk in, there was a fantastic aroma because the people that I bought the house to are really good bakers. But anyway, for me, I've kind of transitioned it into a multitude of uses. You can see George over there is on his chair. So it may also be a human being. He's very generous with sharing his space. So there's lots of comfortable seating spaces. This table serves as a multi-use. The table itself, again, it came from my bed and breakfast in Texas. As you can see right now, it's a transition for all these amazing flowers. I mean, can you believe the size of this hydrangea? It's also obviously a place to eat, maybe a snack by myself, maybe multiple people here. And also, I use this space a lot as an overflow from my office. So I very much enjoy the kind of the positioning of this table as far as the aspect windows, that beautiful light. So it's not exclusively used just for eating. Even though I inherited these recessed lights that I'm not so interested in, most of it's candlelight. Even this candelabra itself, I did actually ship over a beautiful chandelier for my central eating space, but could never get the codes right with the US to the UK. So in actuality, candlelight's lovely. There's a couple of vintage lamps, but for the most part, it's a candlelit dinner here, which I absolutely love. The chairs are left over from another past life. I've actually reproduced these many times over with different collections and made these little nifty slip covers. So those are very easily washable, which is how I like it, that beauty comfort function. There is a fireplace here that's a working fireplace, but not so in my life. I've not actually used it yet. So once again, it's decorated just with an overflow of flowers. So I pretty much worked with what I inherited with this house from the prior owners. All these built-ins were here. In time, I probably will take them away and put some vintage pieces. In time, I probably will paint the walls just a slightly more smoky palette. But what I did do was I did continue throughout the whole house this kind of half wall where you can see the tonal. It's actually James white below and Wimborne white above. So that's kind of my introduction to colour. But in time, I do intend to kind of layer on some additional colours here. But anyway, for now, the functions of this are great. Pantry, open shelving, all my hodgepodge of vintage china. I use all my vintage china. These floors, which are beautiful flagstone floors, are very unforgiving when I drop china, which, you know, invariably does happen. But I'm not precious about my vintage china as far as everyday wear, because I'm all about mix and matching. So if I have a 5-piece set, it's because one has broken, it's okay. I can mix in something else from a prior hodgepodgeness. What I did do to this kitchen was I did replace, the island was here, but I did replace the marble slab. It's quite large, as you can see. But again, because I use this room for many different uses, it's often filled with flowers, it's often filled with packages going in and out, or sometimes food prep. Of course, I had to buy the signature Devolve kitchen taps here, which I absolutely love. But I don't, again, whether it's my dryer for my washing machine, my dishwasher, I don't use a dishwasher that much. And I think for me, I mean, I do after a big dinner party, but definitely if it's just me or a few friends over, I like the process of the wind down of having a meal. And so the process of being able to wash and then dry, to me, it's just, there's something very therapeutic about it and philosophical about just slow down. So this rack is usually in good use. Then as far as cooking goes, I did actually, this Arga stove, which of course is a signature in English living, came with the house. It was quite old, so I did have it refurbished. It was a yellowy colour, and so of course I made it my signature white. So amazingly useful. In the winter time, I do have the hot plates on, so I can have not just instant hot water and toast, but also it sends off a lot of heat, which was the original use, of course, for Argas when I think they were introduced in the 30s. But what I did was I actually had it transferred from oil into electric. So this is my central station. And so now I can control each component. I can control just that hot plate, this hot plate, the ovens. So it just makes it, for today's living, a lot more user-friendly. But I can't say that I've worked out the art of baking in an Arga yet, but I'm definitely incorporating the slowdown of the Arga lifestyle, because even this takes 12 minutes to heat. It's not automatic, it's not a microwave, it's not even like my electrical stove over here. But that's just kind of part of the process of just having some patience. I did put in these lovely tiles, which I absolutely love. I'll pop the light on for a minute, just so you can see. And I actually asked the tradesman who put them on to do them a little bit off. So that's why you can see. It's very hard to get tradesmen to do things that aren't perfect. But I did ask him, I just don't want it to be perfect. Got those from Sorel Stones, and they're just little marble flowers, which I think are absolutely delightful. Up here, this is an old, along with the countertops, these are just old scaffolding boards. My friend Belle taught me or introduced me to that concept, and I borrowed that idea. And then a hodgepodge of various vintage vases and things that I've collected over time. There used to be built-in cabinets here and also here. But I'm just, again, it just felt all too polished for me. So right thing, wrong thing, who knows? I did take them out and I did just hang my little hutch, and again, very kind of easily friendly. I normally have it filled with various cups and mugs, and they must be around the house somewhere. And it's a mishmash of vintage pieces, and again, more from my next collection, which are vintage inspired. So going over here, you know, when you guys leave, I'm having a teeny weeny little tea gathering. So these were just picked up at Sainsbury's, nothing fancy, dollop some ice cream in them. And again, my kind of palette, always have lots of fabulous napkins around. These actually went through the drying process. So as you can see, they're rumpled and not wrinkled, and the ruffles are just right. And more lovely linens here, ready to go onto the table. So all in all, that's the everything room of the kitchen. To me, shabby chic has actually become a lifestyle. You know, it touches upon not just the aesthetics actually, but also a philosophy of life choices, whether it's of a pillow or a friendship, quite frankly, is that there's an ability to have beautiful, special things, but that are mix and matching. They're all of equal value, even if one is a bit louder than the other, one is a bit softer, but it's all of them coming together that just creates the richness. Now, when I first started Shabby Chic, it was definitely a lot of whites and definitely a lot of pastel pinks, a lot of pastel blues, lots of pastel greens. I wasn't confident enough to make a statement. And so just having this beautiful pastel, whether it's a sofa, whether it's a teacup, whether it's a bedspread, that if it was just these pastel colors, they were an evocative feeling, but they were just soothing, but weren't intrusive. And as a child, I was always very interested in creating that feeling, wanting to have a safe space, feeling nurtured. So I actually think that was initially what I was trying to achieve with my ensemble of those initial days of products that I was bringing into my store. As time has gone on and I've become a bit braver and also lived in my homes, many different ones, I stay with that same palette. It's always pinks, but maybe it goes all the way through the shades of raspberry or even fuchsia. I still stay with blues, but maybe it goes all the way into teals or turquoises. And I also really enjoy earth tones. And so I have really found when I look back onto where I began, it's nearly like the development of my confidence is shown in my my choosing of making more of a statement with richer colors. And now actually, one room could really encompass all of those shades, all of those different colors. The only shades, and maybe I'll be sitting here in 5 years and this will be different, that I don't really bring into my design world are primary colors. I can't even remember if I've ever used red, orange, yellow, Kelly green. Those to me are still colors for how I want to live, are just a little bit too bold. I can totally appreciate them and I go into many homes that do use those primary colors. But for me, it really is this kind of softer flow of this palette. Now we're in what I call my sleeping sanctuary. And for those of you who know me, it's quite similar to other bedrooms. I nearly always just do white with a little bit of tonal eggshell blue, sometimes some pink. My philosophy around my sleeping space is calm and serene. So I'm very, very, very curated in what I let be in my visual kind of first thing that I see in the morning, last thing I see at night. And so I want soothing things, I want beautiful things, but I don't want stimulating just too much noise in any way, shape or form. So the only kind of interest, if you like, to the white painted walls was I did do this Wimborne white that comes down from the ceiling, just to give a little bit of variation. And then I have this beautiful artist friend, his name is Ben Peck Whiston, and I had him do these stencils, rubbed back. His work is throughout my house, and what's so beautiful about it is because it's so rubbed back, it actually looks like you've discovered it rather than added it. Initially, I was going to have him do these flowers over the whole wall, but actually less was so much more here. So we just have this one bouquet here. This bed actually used to be in my little teeny weeny rented cottage, and in the end it fit into this big lovely room because it used to just be wall to wall. I actually got it from Perlo, and this is one of my petticoat bedding collections, which is just ruffles on ruffles on ruffles on ruffles, kind of Marie Antoinette-y. I nearly always sleep just with white bedding. My whole day is just so filled with flowers and kind of just a lot of beauty that even when I'm sleeping, my body really needs to just have calm. This chair over here, I really should call it the George chair, even though he sits on all the furniture in the house. This is definitely the chair that he likes. I have a couple of beautiful lamps, especially this dove lamp, which I absolutely adore, because doves symbolizes such grace and beauty. So again, that's just kind of a philosophical energy around me in the last thing I do before I go to sleep and the first thing I do when I wake up. So that's just something that I really very much enjoy. Painted these floorboards white. They were pretty old and distressed. You can see a lot of dings in them, but the dings, the shabby beauty, is actually what gives them character. But by painting them white, I just have this lovely refresh. Most of the rugs that you see throughout the house, including the ones in this bedroom, are from Etsy. As far as the curtains go, my whole curtain journey in England has been a real lesson, because in California, you don't really need them. You don't need them for privacy, typically, if you have an outside area that gives you privacy. And, of course, you don't have extreme weather. And so most of my curtains in my house in Los Angeles, it's literally just voile curtains thumbtacked to the wall. These curtains, I would say, are my favorite curtains that I've ever had made. And I had to have a lot of discussions understanding about linings and about muffling sound. And I learned with a lot of curtains, if you don't do the linings right, it actually has a big effect on not just how the light comes through the fabric, but also how they hang. And what I love, 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 love about these curtains is because of how the lining works, they kind of have this taffeta ball gown effect. Again, perfect tradesman who made these curtains for me, and then I imperfected them in as much as this was much more kind of polished and much more evenly spaced, but I actually just like that little bit of imperfection, so I undid some of the gathering just to achieve that. And yeah, I've got beautiful views out of this window. I have my front lawn there. I have the walled garden here, and you can just about see through that window my dahlia cutting garden, which is just really beautiful. This chandelier is probably on the shabbier side of chic, and I actually look at it every night from bed and I realize I must take the time to restring these and, maybe even take the label that's stuck on the top there, but just something I haven't gotten around to. So all in all, I couldn't ask for a more beautiful room to wake up to and shut my eyes on. It's really quite lovely. Okay, so now through from my sleeping space into my pampering space, my boudoir, which is really, I think, eye candy. And I love the juxtaposition, all these raw plaster walls, but kind of flanked with this highly feminine, beautiful vanity that was one of the few pieces that I actually bought once I moved to England. I didn't actually know what house it was going to, and I did wonder, gosh, that's going to need, a substantial space, but it found its beautiful space. And it's very, very functional. I keep all of my toiletries in all of the drawers. It's just got that perfect balance of shabby and chic. I mean, it's definitely very chic, but obviously from the time-worn elegance of it, it's got just the perfect amount of distress without it feeling kind of like grungy. Again, continued painting the floors throughout. And these were going to be temporary curtains just to give some privacy, but in actuality, absolutely love just the way the curtains are. So this is the bathroom. Now, the story of the bathroom is I've been very fortunate throughout my career to stay in really beautiful, beautiful luxury hotels. And I always had this little checklist in my mind of what are all these things that I would just love in that eventual, beautiful, glamorous bathroom that I would one day have. Because for whatever reason, I've always had very small bathrooms that I've always absolutely loved. And I've always used them. I bathe every night. So for my luxury hotel-inspired bathroom, as you can see, beautiful, beautiful pedestal sink, put this little shelf in just for, because I don't really like to have storage necessarily in the bathroom. That can go elsewhere, but you do need some practical space for things. So I kind of created my own vanity with the shelf and this beautiful mirror. Of course, the heated towel rail, beautiful marble tiles, this beautiful crochet rug that is actually from my next collection. I added it here. It's a little bit boho for this bathroom, but it kind of gave a little bit of intimacy and a little bit of coziness, because for me this is a big space. I probably never would have designed a bathroom this big, but again, grade 2 listed house, you get what you get and you work within it. Massive, beautiful bathtub. Certainly when I do bathe, closing them gives a lovely little bit of a cottage feeling. And in any size bathroom, even some of my smaller bathrooms, I always like to have a little bit of furniture that's kind of quirky, just to break up the sea of the kind of the hardscape of tiles. And the tiles that I just absolutely love, this is from the lacy one, is from a company called Original Style. And then a lot of the hardware and the marble and the trim tile is all from Fired Earth. Worked a lot with Fired Earth, they were really great. And so again, going back to the English codes of lighting, I inherited the recessed lights, never, ever, 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 ever put them on. This is actually just a closed globe light fixture that you can find virtually in any hardware store. It's nothing fancy about it, but it met the codes, and I think it served its place very well. So that's kind of this bathroom. Now we are in what used to be the original schoolhouse for the village. Rumour has it that the kids would come through my walled garden, and then there's a portion down there that was a schoolhouse, and this was all part of the whole schooling experience way back in the 1600s. I, of course, adore this space. It takes me back to my Texas days, where the light comes in from the cracks in the wood, and of course when it's windy and rainy, the experience on the corrugated roof is just music to my ears. But what I use this space for is, firstly, it houses all my amazing props and different architectural pieces that I've gathered over the years. There's archways there, there's circus pieces, there's wood paneling, and they come out for all kinds of parts of my storytelling. And it's also just kind of a thoroughfare. I get a lot of samples sent here from all of my different projects. Most recent were my wallpapers and my paints. So they kind of come here until I work out what I'm going to do with them, how I'm going to market them, and just experience them, just make sure that the dye lots are right and all that kind of stuff. So this is really a very kind of trodden path. This, of course, had to come with me. You know, I used to have multiple stores, hopefully will again one day, but this was actually off my Prairie store storefront, so really very much loved that. And, you know, again, just more storytelling pieces. These are lovely wire frames that, again, maybe I'm doing a wedding or doing something and I just fill it with cascading flowers. Down there, you might be thinking, are those wedding cakes? What's the story on those? I've done a few weddings. They showed up at, you know, Pamela Anderson's wedding, different celebrities that I've worked with. And typically what I do is I fill them with votives and then overflowing flowers. And they're just a beautiful accent for weddings and celebrations. And this is one of my beloved chandeliers that has yet to make it through the transition of US to UK coding, so it just sits there along with a chandelier that's part of my next collection. So everything in this room is just, to me, textures, soul, stories of where they've been, stories of what's to come, and I just absolutely love this space. Now we're in the heartbeat of my design world, my design studio. I probably spend more time in here than any other room, including my bedroom, just from the very nature of that I work in 2 time zones, England and also America. So this is kind of my temple of work right here. In fact, recently I've got a new book coming out, and this is me kind of working out the photographs. It's where I spent a lot of time on Zoom, and in fact, George, as you can see, he's very used to this chair because he spends a lot of time there, and then after I've been on a call for maybe 5 hours, he'll come over and he'll nudge me out of the way. There's nearly always piles of fabrics on this desk, from either past designs that I've done or current designs. It's funny, since I've been doing this for 36 years, I've got so many archives of different fabrics. You can see that's what this shelf is all about as well. And sometimes I've forgotten what prints I've done long ago, and I bring them out, and it's like visiting with an old friend, and then I might reimagine them, whether it's for a wallpaper, whether it's for a lampshade, whether it's for a bedding collection. I might tweak the flowers, tweak the colors, add a butterfly, but I have enough inspiration to keep re-inspiring myself. As I reflect back on life, I really do see all these different chapters that I have led. And, you know, some end happily ever after, some don't. And that's okay too, because even with the ones that don't, there's always learning to come from those. And so, like I said, Somerset, I didn't really think through the logistics and the practicalities of the fact that I still have a very full life in Los Angeles. It's not like I, you know, all of a sudden I don't spend time there, or what I did there wasn't important. It's still of equal importance. But there's a lot going on in America, and I enjoy the simple things. Mean so much to me here, like how I find the British have quite a lot of humility, good manners, driving these English country lanes that barely have enough space for one car, less two. I've never been honked at. You know, you pull over, there's no rules of who should be pulling over, but there's just that nice way that the British communicate, certainly here in the countryside. I know London can be a little bit more aggressive. And so those qualities for me at this point in my life really are a priority for just how I want to interact in the world. Is Somerset forever? I don't know, because I still haven't worked out how I'm going to blend these two lives, because they're on two different time zones. My working schedule typically is 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, London or England, through till 5 or 6, and then guess what? Los Angeles is awake, and so then I'm on calls and Zooms and whatever till 10 o'clock at night. So I haven't worked that out. I really miss my daughter when I'm not in Los Angeles. What I work towards is just, it's where I am now, and I love it. The experience of this home in Somerset, it nearly feels like, from a standpoint of the house itself, all of my different chapters that have come together. And I feel I've honed my craft of the design, except wanting to paint some walls, different colors. And so it does have a completion for me right now. It is a large house, so maybe that's something I need to consider. More about anything I have in my life. Again, a friendship, a house, a teacup. I want to make sure that I'm actually appreciating it, nourishing it. Right now, this house has been very big. I do lots of photo shoots here, lots of friends come passing through. My son, as I mentioned, my stepdaughter, they're in London. So there's a lot of time, this house is full. But is it forever? I don't know. I mean, it could be if I could ever develop all those barns and create this destination for creative people, because that's what I love more than anything. That is what Somerset is bringing for me at the moment. It's a very beautiful chapter. Thank you, Homeworthy and everyone, for taking the time to come through my Meadow Manor home. I now have a tea party to get together. See you later.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.